Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking Games with Kellie and Andrew. I'm Andrew.
I'm Kellie.
Good
morning.
It's before noon.
Right.
Which
is why we're saying morning.
It feels weird, doesn't it?
It does. I don't feel like awake fully, even though I've been awake for like 5 hours. It doesn't feel good to me.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say because now we're about to make a podcast.
I'm just kidding. I actually feel fine. I wake up early now because I'm old, so
yeah, I do it too.
This is not a non-issue for me.
Although
it's just interesting because we typically don't record this early unless it's like a holiday or something.
Right. Even when it's a holiday, it's usually like we'll record at like 1 or 2. But today we started at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Not to like timestamp us, not to current day us. Oh, that's a good discourse. Are we allowed to bring that up? I'm going to bring it up. Did you see that video, Kellie?
No, I don't think I did.
There's a video of some bald gamer. He's a streamer.
Yeah.
I just like, so this guy, if you don't know, don't look it up. You're fine. But this man is screaming how mad he is that Starfield has pronoun selection at the start. And, you know, I think most logic, like a lot of the comments on his video are like, yeah, say it, boy. But all of them have blue check marks. So I'm like, I don't trust you.
Always.
I wonder why blue check marks get to be first in line on the reply chains. That's so strange. But like, how long have you been able to choose gender in RPGs? Forever.
Yeah.
As long as D&D has existed, you've been allowed to pick a gender.
It's just rage bait. It's just to get people to talk.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, that guy probably made money off
it. It's not affecting their lives in any tangible way. They just want to be mad and they want to signal to other people that they are bigoted.
Yeah.
So that they can retain a bigoted audience.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny that he's like, I'm not playing this game anymore. He's like Australian or something, or British maybe.
One of those two. He's like, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm done. And it's like, bro, you paid $30 for the early access. Like, this is embarrassing for you. Yeah, he paid $100 to play this game 4 days before everybody else, and now he refuses to play.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, you should have kept that to yourself.
It's just silly. I'm like, dude, you've always been allowed to say. Also, it is a 2-second thing. Pick and move, and then you don't even think about it once. Just pick he, him, and move, you know?
Yeah.
Because we know he would never do she, her on that.
But if he did that, then he wouldn't be able to make a video that he could post on Twitter and be mad about.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, post on X.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Right. X Blue. Is it still called Blue? Is it X Blue?
I don't know. That sounds like a bit like an adult website.
Yeah, that sounds like porn. Straight up. Oh, I subscribe to X Blue, and it's like, why would you say that publicly?
Yeah, it's like, we didn't need to know your tastes like that.
My tastes are Mario Bros. I like to play the games.
Right.
I realized how that sounded, so I had to skirt around.
I know. I was like, how's he gonna save this one?
I didn't. I'm just gonna move on.
Yeah.
Hope everybody forgets what I've done.
I'll never forget.
Well, Nintendo never forgets. And by that I mean they posted a direct. Mario Bros. Wonder. I hate that it's not Super Mario Wonder. Why is it not Super Mario Wonder? It's Super Mario Bros.
Because they're all
Wonder.
in it. Luigi's in it. Peach is in it. Daisy's in it.
I know, but Super Mario Wonder. Well, they're not the bros. Yoshi's not Mario's bro.
They're like the royal bro, you know, like the royal
Sup, bro.
That's like them.
Yeah. Anyway, Super Mario Bros. Wonder got a 15-minute direct presentation. Sort of a prerequisite. There was also an interview where the directors confirmed that there was 0 time limit on their prototype phase, which if you watch gameplay footage, it kind of shows. Like, this game is full of wild ideas, and it really proves that maybe giving developers the time they need to develop ideas can create really wild games. Obviously, I have not played it. Previews are very positive, though, and this direct really got me excited. Lot to talk about, but I'll kind of skip around. They just showed a lot of new enemies, gave a lot of insight into the new power-ups, such as Elephant, which, you know, is exactly what we needed to see. And also we got to see Princess Peach as an elephant now. They confirmed the full roster of characters, which is Mario, Luigi, Toad, Toadette, Peach, Daisy, 4 different Yoshis, and Nabbit the Rabbit. Yoshi's and Nabbit can't get power-ups, and they have special abilities, and they can't take damage. So that's kind of cool. But you can just switch between all of them. They all have the same movement abilities, so that's kind of different, because it used to be like, oh, Peach can float, Luigi can jump higher, Toad's faster. Now they're all across the board the same, which I think kind of benefits the level design to an extent, because it's like everything's designed for one character versus 9. And then I think the most important feature that they showed off, in my opinion, is the badge system. So you can use your in-game currency, these purple coins that you're getting, to buy badges, which give you special abilities. So sometimes you have like an extra jump, or you have a grappling hook, or you have the ability to like run up a wall a little bit. It seems small, but as a platformer fan, I think it's a huge game changer, and I'm excited to see that. Also, the ability to spend your collectibles on something is a good thing. You know, collecting coins in Mario is fun, but if it goes nowhere, what's the point?
Right.
So, Kelly, are you excited for Elephant Mario and Peach?
I am. I'm very excited. And I wanted to mention something that you said, that the game has been given a lot of time to create some wild ideas. I think you should have said wondrous ideas. But I also am thinking,
No!
Won't anyone please, for the love of God, think of the poor shareholders who are like, please release this game. And they were like, no, we want to develop a game that will be fun to play. And those poor, suffering shareholders had to wait like 2 years for a Mario game.
Those poor people.
Won't anybody please think of rich people? Please?
I'm thinking about rich people at all times. That's the primary thing I think about.
No, I'm excited. I think I'm not going to play this game. I'm not a huge Mario head like some of us on this podcast.
Hey, we don't have to point me out.
Sorry. I do think it's cool that you can play as Peach and Daisy. I think Daisy needs a little bit more love. Toadette, not so much. She is a terrible person. She has
Toadette.
done
What the heck?
bad things, and I will not be forgiving her. And she knows what she did.
Daisy's a literal war criminal.
Well, she's also a teenage girl, so.
Is she a teenager?
No, I just said that.
How old is Daisy? All right.
I'm just memeing, you know.
How old is
I did like the one little
Princess
guy.
Daisy?
His name's Florian. He's like a little prince. He's like a
he's
little
so cute.
caterpillar prince. He's very cute.
It's estimated that she's between 19 and her early 20s.
Yeah, she's a teenager.
Who's estimating that?
Me on this podcast.
What an odd thing to estimate.
Yeah.
Oh, she
I'm
was born
excited.
on April 21st, 1999.
Oh,
I think that's
So
just when her
she's
game came out.
yeah. I mean, she was technically born then, I guess.
She was born in Houston, Texas.
Oh.
She's a Taurus.
That's
she's
where
married.
Beyonce's from.
She's Christian.
Are you just looking at Beyonce's Wikipedia page?
I'm looking at what is this Pedia? I don't know how to pronounce that.
She's a Christian.
It says she's religion, Christian.
She's a good Catholic woman.
Instruments: vocals, guitar, bass, synthesizer, violin, flute, trumpet. Species: human. Skin color:
Oh.
Caucasian. Hair color:
Wow.
ginger. Alignment: good.
Ginger.
Favorite food: hamburgers. Favorite
She's
color:
brown hair.
orange. Allies: Luigi. Enemies: Tatonga.
Her and Luigi are each other's beards.
Likes:
I will not
Luigi.
be expanding on that.
One of her likes is Luigi.
Well,
Her dislikes is Waluigi.
right.
Daisy is a young woman and is shorter and stouter than Peach, but she's taller than Luigi.
Stop.
She has fair skin, big round light blue eyes with 2 eyelashes on each,
Okay.
a small
So-
nose, round cheeks, and thin eyebrows.
If you guys care about Daisy, like Andrew apparently does, you can read her Wikipedia, her Mariopedia page.
I don't know what this. I don't know how to pronounce.
Mushroompedia.
I just clicked on the first one.
It doesn't matter.
According to the theory of Crazy Daisy's being her servants, she seems to have musical interests, as she raps in the song called "Save Me with Your Charm" on the Super Mario Compact Disco.
This game comes out October 20th.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
She's
very
Christian.
soon. She's Christian. It's a good Christian holiday. Avoiding the horrible pagan Halloween, All Hallows Eve. Is that a pagan holiday, All Hallows Eve?
I
Halloween?
don't know.
I think All Hallows Eve is the night before Halloween. I gotta brush up on my Halloween lore. I guess I better open the Halloween Wikipedia.
Wouldn't it be like Halloweenpedia?
Yeah, but that might be like the John Carpenter Halloween.
What about like Halopedia?
I don't know. That might be like a Hello Kitty hello
Hello.
Wikipedia.
Hello Kitty.
Hey, does anybody want to hear any video game news?
Yeah, we're 16 minutes into our recording.
So, there's a game coming out in a couple weeks, an expansion for a game called Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty.
I know about that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I'm glad you know. I'm glad you're in the know. CD Projekt Red was basically like, yeah, we're only doing one DLC, quote unquote, for Cyberpunk because we want to move on to Unreal Engine 5. And we don't want to be technically limited by that. I think I feel like they're over-explaining because The Witcher only had one DLC, right?
No, I had Blood and Wine and that other one, House of Ashes.
But they're...
Did I make that up?
No, yeah, that's a super massive game. House of Ashes.
I got it. You keep talking, I'll find it.
I feel like they're over-explaining a little bit because I don't think anybody expected more out of Cyberpunk than Phantom Liberty because it's an expansion, so it's a little bit more than just a standard DLC.
Hearts of Stone.
Hearts of Stone. And The Witcher 3 had expansions, and they were pretty hefty, and there were only 2 of them.
Yeah.
And I think it makes sense that they're moving on to Unreal Engine 5. They have talked about wanting to do it, so I think they're just over-explaining a little bit. But I think that they might feel like they're in a position where they need to over-explain.
Yeah.
Just because of everything that happened with Cyberpunk's development and initial rollout.
We were talking about like that unlimited prototype phase. I feel like Cyberpunk got that, but then as soon as they were out of the prototype phase, they were like, all right, now you have to hurry a lot. Because like in prototype, they talked about like, it'll come out when it's ready, when they announced it, right? And that was like 7 years before it came out. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a thought I'm having. But also, this DLC looks crazy huge. There only being one seems fine to me.
Yeah, especially when you consider that the 2.0 update is also happening in conjunction with this DLC, with Phantom Liberty, which is going to be a huge base game update. So it's kind of like... And they've been continually updating the game. It doesn't necessarily feel like this is bad. Like, I mean, I'm not like... I don't know who was expecting more than Phantom Liberty. I was surprised that we were getting Phantom Liberty at all because it just seemed like such a disastrous launch and people were very mad and really their reputation didn't... Not reputation, but the buzz around Cyberpunk didn't really turn around until Edgerunners, in my opinion. And that's kind of when public perception shifted to being more in favor of the game again.
Yeah, because the game had been fixed before that, right?
Yeah, they had been continually fixing it before Edgerunners, and then it kind of got a boost because people were revisiting the game after watching the anime and realizing that it was improved technically.
Do you think...
I think there are obviously still people who probably are unhappy with like certain narrative aspects of the game and certain like game design things that just aren't what Cyberpunk was ever going to be. I'm not sure if that's a case of like bad expectations set by the company, by the marketing, or by the player. I'm not really sure, but the 2.0 update is going to be very, very large, and the expansion if you choose to buy it. And obviously they're going to continue with this universe in the future, so it's not going away anytime soon, I don't think.
Do you think that Edgerunners was you might actually know the answer, but do you think Edgerunners maybe was like they were aware of how good it was going to be, how well it was going to be received, so they thought it might just be like a means of bringing goodwill back to the game? Or was it in development long before the game even came out?
I'm really not sure. I think that it was in development before the game came out, but I don't think it was necessarily in development for like years and years. I think it probably was in development around the same time that the game was coming out. And maybe I don't know. I would like to get like in like 20 years, if there's like some sort of like expose or something about like what really happened behind
Ugh, I would love that.
the Cyberpunk development process. I think that would be very interesting.
I'd read a whole book, genuinely.
Yeah. And all the sort of like supplementary stuff around it. I just feel like I'm not really sure. I don't know if they thought it was going to buy goodwill. I think that Netflix probably saw a lot of good returns on the Castlevania series, and they knew that they could capitalize on these not cheap, but not as expensive, obviously, as live action video game adaptations, which is why we've got like Edge Runners and, they have like Dragon Age Absolution and
Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, and they had a Witcher animated series.
Did they?
Yes.
Wow. Completely under my radar.
Yeah. So they like, I think there was just a demand for it. I do think it's interesting that Edge Runners still happened because, and I think that is because it was in development before the game came out.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have made it after the game came out, but I'm not really sure. It's hard to say. Like, business decisions happen in a different room, a room that I am not in. So who knows? Cyberpunk
also made absolute gangbusters amount of money regardless of the public discourse. So maybe some of the people involved in that decision were like, it made money, who cares?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the world existed before. There was a framework for the world before because it's based off of a tabletop role-playing game. So I think that knowing that, they were able to be a little bit more like, oh, we've kind of got the world built already. We don't have to do the heavy legwork of like creating something brand new. And I think it helped that the creators and developers of Cyberpunk were so open and have been super open since about what's going on and, how they really feel and, what they want, what they envision for the game and how they're like trying to make that vision what it should have been on release, so to speak.
I have some bad news, Kelly.
Yeah. What is the bad news?
Our friends over at Volition, we don't know anybody at Volition, but I think they're probably good people. Behind the often esteemed Saints Row series. I say often because it may have missed the mark on this last entry, but honestly, when I think back on all the other ones, there was a lot of positivity behind them. They were kind of a moment, I feel like Saints Row 3 and 4, when they came out, were kind of a big deal.
Definitely.
They were bought by Embracer 10 years ago, 2013. Embracer, obviously, a mega corporation that likes to buy video game studios. Volition, unexpectedly, due to restructuring at Embracer, is no more. No warning. Presumably any projects in development are just thrown away. This sucks. This really does suck. Like, to have a game studio, and obviously it's not like Embracer bought them to shut them down, because there was 10 years between that happening.
Yeah.
But Embracer not just being like, all right, we're putting Volition on the market, or like, we're making Volition independent. Because Embracer had the keys to the whole studio, they just shut it down instead of allowing it to like I think Volition, if it went indie, could have done some crazy cool things, without the crazy pressures of like AAA gaming that kind of put it in the box that made the new Saints Row happen. I think they could have done some really interesting things, and they clearly have a lot of talented people there. You know, say what you want about the new Saints Row, like a lot of people think it's bland and stuff, and that's fine, that's valid. But like technically, that team knows how to make games well. So, it's just a really sad day when a studio doesn't even get warning. You know, it's just done.
Yeah, I think that this is it's really disappointing. I think that it's hard when it's like they always talk about restructuring. The restructuring. I think there's a lot of there are a lot of layoffs and quote unquote restructuring happening in a lot of industries right now. I think there is a bit of an economic downturn happening. And I think stuff like this just sort of is a reminder that, you know, we like play these games and we love them. And it's like, I remember playing Saints Row 3 when I was in high school and being super excited for 4. And like, we play these games and we get really attached to the worlds and the characters and the story. And then, you know, at the flip of a switch, it's like, it's done. It's over. And people's livelihoods are sort of uprooted. People are forced into positions where, you know, maybe they have to go find a different job at a different company, or maybe they have to change their life. It's like it's really a bummer.
It's such a dollars and cents decision instead of like a human or creative decision.
It is, and it's sad, and I fear that we will probably see quite a bit more of it going forward.
I mean, there was some
this year, and
there's some word about Gearbox having some restructuring, and that's also owned by Embracer. And like Gearbox, I feel like is a similar team to Volition in some sense, like the way their output has gone, the direction their output has gone. But like that'd be another crazy hit if it's a couple executives, I don't care. But like if they're knocking out a ton of employees, that's just not good. It's hurtful. It's damaging to the industry and, more importantly, to those people's livelihoods.
Yeah. And, I mean, this happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago with BioWare. They lost 50 people.
Yeah.
50 people were laid off. I hate that word. Just say that you fired them. Like, laid off is such a gentle... I don't know. And it's like, I think the thing, too, is like, this is just a symptom of what's going on. You've got these huge Sony, Microsoft, and these huge like monsters, and they're not even tiny studios, but in comparison they're so small they just can't do anything. They can't do anything versus what the industry really is right now. And it's just it's kind of alarming, and I mean it's more than anything, it's sad.
And it's funny, so you talked about like layoffs versus like just getting rid of people. I've been reading Blood, Sweat, Pixels, which is a book about different video games development cycles, and the first major section of the game is about Pillars of Eternity, which is Obsidian. And Obsidian for a while was independent, completely independent. And obviously they worked on Fallout New Vegas, so a lot of people knew who they were, but they were trying to make it on their own without the need of any IP or anything, so they did a Kickstarter and all this stuff. But before that happened, they were relying on a bunch of different avenues that weren't working out, and they had to lay people off because they had no money and they were independent. And like situations like that, they stink, but I kind of like see a lot more validity in that, because I'm like, okay, they literally don't have money to pay these people. Like if they kept them around, they wouldn't be able to pay them, which wouldn't be fair. Whereas something like Volition, you know what, or just something like you're talking about, like EA and BioWare. EA has infinite money. Come on. You can afford to pay these people. You're just choosing not to because it doesn't make sense in your current vision, because it doesn't, it makes like a $500,000 difference to have these people. Well, it's 50 people, right? $5 million difference, let's say. $5 million is nothing. That's nothing. Just pay the people. Let them continue to work.
Especially like in Volition's case, they've been around for like 30
Decades.
years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's like the majority of the video game industry, like, existing.
Yeah, literally. It's crazy.
Just overnight poof.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. And like I said, I think we'll probably hear more stories like this as the year goes on and as we go into next year.
Yeah.
But, moving on to our next news story, which is not as disheartening, but disheartening in a different way, I guess. According to Bethesda and Mr. Howard, Elder Scrolls 6 is officially in early development. Which is really funny because it's kind of like, if you think about it, we saw a JPEG, to borrow some terminology from our friend of the show, Cameron. We saw a JPEG of this game like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
At Summer Games
E3.
E3. Oh my God, that was back when E3 was still kind of a big deal.
And Bethesda was still doing it, yeah.
And Bethesda was still at E3, and Bethesda was not owned by Microsoft yet. Many things have changed since we saw that JPEG, except for Elder Scrolls 6 still being in early development. So,
that's 5 years in pre-production.
That's a really long time
heck?
to be in pre-production. I guess I don't really understand why Bethesda is a pretty big studio. I guess I don't really understand how it can't be. Like, they were working on Starfield for a long time, but they weren't working on anything else at the same time. I'm not sure I get it. They were working on Fallout 70. Don't worry, they released Fallout 76. But God forbid we do any work towards Elder Scrolls 6.
I feel like that's the thing, is this is probably just the Starfield team, and they didn't get to start till they finished Starfield. And it's like, why would you announce them both the same day then?
I know, and the thing with Starfield is they're like, they're still going to be working on it. There's obviously going to be a lot of, the team's probably pared down quite a bit now with more focus on this early development of Elder Scrolls 6, but they're obviously going to be working on support for the game and DLC stuff, which I'm sure is coming. But it's like, really? Because we saw this in 2018.
Yeah.
The world was a radically different place in 2018, okay?
I feel like 2028 is like the best case scenario for this game. So 10 years is the minimum turnaround. It's like, you idiots, why did you...
And not even 10 years, like 10 years from the announcement.
Yes.
Not even 10 years from the last. It'll be like 20 years since the last game, almost.
Yeah, because that was 2013.
Skyrim came out in 2011.
2011. Oh my God, you're right. It will probably...
2011.
There's a decent chance it's 20 years.
The 10-year anniversary was 2 years ago. That means if Elder Scrolls 6 comes out in 2028, it'll have been like 17, 18. It's like, I can't wrap my head around it. I get it. Like, I understand it's a huge game, and these games keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I can guarantee you, when you're playing Elder Scrolls 6, you're still going to get the same animations that you were getting in Oblivion in 2008, okay? Yeah. That's just the Bethesda way.
We say that we're going to be talking a lot about Bethesda next week, I'm sure.
Yes, it's going to be quite a Bethesda heavy. We're going to have Todd Howard on the show.
What?
Wow. Yeah, surprise, Andrew. I called in some favors.
You booked Todd.
And I booked Todd. I found him on Cameo. And I said, instead of $5 for a 30-second video, I'm going to pay you $100. And then you can come on Talking Games with Kellie and Andrew for an hour and talk all about Elder Scrolls 6. Because that's why we're talking about Bethesda a lot, right? Next week, right?
Because Todd Howard's going to be on the show?
Right. Right.
Yes.
There's no other Bethesda thing happening in the next couple days, right? Right.
Okay, I'll just say it on the air because I want to embarrass myself. I was talking about how Starfield was coming out on Friday, and Kelly was like, no, it's not. And I was like, it's coming out Friday, Kelly, shut up. And she was like, it comes out Wednesday, but like, it's playable Tuesday evening. And I was like, no, it's not, Kelly, stop that. And then she just showed me a receipt, and I was like, oh. I just completely misunderstood when this game was coming out.
It's okay. I didn't even know the release date until I saw people playing early access on Twitter. X. I'm sorry.
No, it's Twitter. It's Twitter.
But I was like, oh, okay, so it's in early access now, so maybe it comes out on Friday, and then I checked my Xbox app on my PC, and I saw that I could preload it, and I was like, oh, well, let me just get that out of the way. And then I was like, okay, you can play this Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
What a weird time to release the game, though. 8
I
p.m.
know,
Eastern
8
Standard.
p.m. I thought it came out 11 a.m. on Wednesday, but then I confused myself because that's Baldur's Gate came out at 11 a.m. on like a Thursday.
Why don't games just come out at midnight? Come on, guys.
I'm know.
Confused and stupid.
I am two things, always. Confused and stupid. If you could clear things up for me, that would be awesome.
Something that PlayStation cleared up for us. PlayStation Plus is about to spike in price. The monthly prices are going to be unchanged, so if you're playing monthly, don't worry about it. But if you're paying annually, PlayStation Plus Essential, which is the base one, is going from $60 to $80. PlayStation Plus Extra, which comes with a bunch of PS4 and PS5 games every month. Well, overall, they add things every month, but it's just this giant library, is going from $120 to $135. And then PlayStation Plus Premium, I'm sorry, I have the original prices wrong. That wasn't $120. It switched from $100 to $135. And then PlayStation Plus Premium, which also includes a couple PS2, 1, and PSP games, that's switching to $159.99 instead of $120. This is a huge, huge spike. 33% is a lot to add. It means that I am definitely done with PlayStation Plus Premium, because I've been on the fence. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll switch to Extra because it's less. And I do not, under any circumstance, play the PlayStation 1, 2, or P games. I like that they're there, but like I don't touch them.
It's such an absurd price hike for the catalog of games that they actually have on even on Premium.
Yes. Well, that's the thing is, I feel like Extra is a fine deal. Why is Premium so much more though? Because it doesn't. There's like no difference almost.
And the thing with like PS3 games, you can't even play them. I mean, you can, but it's like you have to stream them. Yeah. It's so annoying. It's like this is so. And even just like the Essential going up to $80.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I'm sorry. That's a lot of money. I know we spend $70 on games now. So it seems like 80 is not that bad. The monthly games also suck.
Like the monthly games have not been good for a while, which means we are paying $80 just for the online play. And that's a lot of money.
$80 just to have people yell at you in Call of Duty lobbies?
No, thank you.
I mean, I don't know about all that. I don't understand unless they're going to like severely and rapidly expand their catalog of games available on Premium or Plus Extra, not Plus, just Extra. I don't think this is nonsensical to me. No. I mean, obviously it's just very greedy unless they're like, we're going to let you play everything forever.
I mean, that's the thing is like, I like Extra. And I'm glad I have it. I do play games on it regularly. Like I'm playing new release Sea of Stars, which I'll talk about in a minute, and that was on there. And like it got Moving Out 2, which I haven't gotten around to, but like that's, day one release. It's getting better. But it's an incredibly valuable package if you didn't have a PS4. Like it's a wildly good package. If you did have a PS4 and you played most of the big hitters, it's like an okay package.
Mm-hmm. But
raising the price is making me question that a lot more,
Yeah, and it's like, how could you ever justify this pricing when Game Pass exists?
Yeah, and Game Pass is a very similar price, so I guess that's probably why they're doing it. But like, Game Pass has like you're raising the price, but to match Game Pass. But Game Pass gives us all the first-party titles on release day. If you put Spider-Man 2 on here day one, I'll be here.
Yeah. I can play Fartfield day one. I could play Fartfield at 8 p.m. on Tuesday tomorrow.
That's not day one. That's 8 p.m. day 0.
And you want me to pay $170,000, $100 billion trillion just to stream Monkey Island? No.
Monkey Island?
I don't know. I think I was actually thinking of Ape Escape. And they don't even have the full Ape Escape catalog. Like, that's how bad it is. It's like, I can't even play all of the Ape Escape games.
What the
I have to
freaking
play
heck?
them, like, piecemeal. It's just...
What the freaking heck? That's all I gotta say.
It's infuriating. Which might be an emotion that Andrew feels when he plays Final Fantasy 16.
Mm-hmm. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in a minute.
So Final Fantasy 16 will be getting 2 paid DLCs, as well as a PC version in development now. So that is going to be a PC version of the full game that they're working on currently, and 2 paid DLCs. I feel like, how many did 15 have DLCs?
Like it had 8 scheduled. Why do you look so surprised?
8 is a lot of
Yes,
paid...
it released 5 of them.
Even 5 is quite a bit.
It's a ton. 15 was also not 100% finished, and that DLC kind of finished it. So,
wow.
I'm not justifying the 5 DLC at all. Don't worry.
I hear you. There's also a free update that you can download now. Andrew, I know you're still playing Final Fantasy 16.
No, I'm not.
Okay. I know you're done playing Final Fantasy 16.
It closed. I had like an hour left of the game, and I just had my PS5 in rest mode, and then I turned it on. It was like, we turned off your game to update it. And I was like, bro, why'd you do that? And I only lost like 3 minutes, but I was like, why did you shut it off without asking? I don't need the onion sword.
The onions. It is that is what it's called, onion sword.
Yeah,
but you get new outfits for Clive.
Yeah, I didn't put
Jill,
them on.
And Torgal.
Well, I'm not gonna say specifics, but like I was in the late game. Clive was the only person on screen for most of the last 2 hours, so like I didn't need the outfits. And also, I'm the type where I like base outfits for a first playthrough anyway. So
why wouldn't they release a Clive swimwear skin?
That's the paid DLC.
Or they already have modeled Clive in the nude. Why wouldn't that be a skin that they could give us? I'm just asking, like, not for any nefarious purposes. I'm just curious why they couldn't do that.
So I played Final Fantasy 16. I made it a goal of mine. We're in the middle of this long weekend. I was like, I am not leaving this weekend without finishing Final Fantasy 16. I need this game to be done. I like it, but I need it to be finished. I think last week I was approaching the last like 5 to 10 hours of the game, and I was a little bit weary because this game has so much fluff in it. So like the high action, high paced main story segments are incredibly good, top of the line, visually beautiful, very engaging story, incredibly acted, very fun to play. And then they make you have a bunch of parts where you walk around, grab something, walk back, give it to the person, have a standstill cutscene where you don't move and you guys just talk to each other. And you have to do that a whole lot. My overall playthrough was 35 hours. I would guess. I think this game should have been like 25 hours, maybe 20. And it would have been like an all-timer. It would have been incredible. The 2 big things, if it was a little more difficult, or had a difficulty option, I should say. If it had more difficulty options and was shorter, this game would be like truly incredible. But as it stands, it was really dragged down by the fluff. And that was indicated because the last 10 hours were awesome. They were really good because it was just main story content, all highly animated cutscenes, lots of high octane action, really no breaks. It's just go, 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 story, story, story. I really like where the story went. I think it's pretty standard for stories to stay like grounded and then become like a let's fight God situation in the last like third of the game. That's a very JRPG thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's very hit or miss. Yeah, it's very good. But this one at least had the god. They introduced the godlike figure pretty early versus like after you defeat what you thought was the main villain. Like, the main villain from like hour like 7. They introduce the character. Which is still kind of late, but, I get it to an extent. But I really liked where it went. It was super beautiful. The ending is really not what I expected. Obviously, no spoilers. but I just was I was surprised by where it went. It's okay. Here's what I'll say. Final Fantasy 15, a lot of people call it like unfinished masterpiece, flawed masterpiece. I disagree. I think Final Fantasy 15 is a very odd game. It's weird, but it's really good because it has a clear vision of what it's doing. The main goal is like you're hanging out with the boys and you're on a road
Drive
trip.
a car.
Yeah.
Be a little gay.
Be a little gay. Just a little bit, though.
Just a little bit. Just the tip.
Okay. I guess checkbox this week.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's not a checkbox. You were talking about the
tip of the car.
All right. I feel like we should just move on before you say more. But like 15 had a clear vision of what it was and what it was doing, and it was weird, but I appreciated that, you know? The side quests were silly and kind of dumb, but it was what forged your bonds with your party members. I feel like this game is a flawed masterpiece where the good parts are truly incredible and great, but there's so much like weird unnecessary fluff because it's like, oh, it's a JRPG, it has to have side content. Oh, it's a JRPG, it has to have like fetch quests. I'm like, no. Make this a Devil May Cry game. Except that it's an action game. That's fine. Make it linear. That's fine. Stop forcing us down these fairly boring paths. During the main story, I did not do any side content. I did one side quest and said, this is going to be bad. I'm just going to do main quest. And even then, there was a bunch of like unnecessary side stuff I was forced to do. It just feels like 15 is a weirdo game with 5 DLCs and like everything about it is odd. But 16 is a great game held back by like its necessities. Like it felt like it had to do certain things.
Yeah.
And that really disappointed me.
You know what a good linear Final Fantasy game is if you're looking for a linear Final Fantasy experience?
No.
Final Fantasy 13.
Oh.
Arguably the most linear Final Fantasy game to ever exist.
Yeah. I think that's a good argument.
You played 13,
Yes,
right?
yeah, I played 13 when I was younger. It's funny because like I played 10 later before I like developed my critical sense, and I was like, this game's just as linear because 10 does have a ton of straight paths and there's the same thing. But the thing that makes 13 feel way more linear is the fact that when you get into battles, you just press X to auto battle and don't think.
Yeah, I love not thinking.
Well, I know you love not thinking, but I don't think that's the case with video games.
I like 13. I like 13 too.
13
Did not like Lightning
right?
Returns.
Oh.
Not a fan of that one.
Since we're kind of pushing on time, I'll jump to the next thing I played and give you my early impressions. New release, Sea of Stars. This is from Sabotage, an independent studio. You might know them. They made The Messenger. This game is a top-down JRPG classic. It's not made in Japan, but it's inspired by games like Chrono Trigger, games like Mario RPG. I kind of expected to just touch on it so I could talk about it on the show and maybe leave it behind because there's so many games. I'm not going to do that. It's really, really good. It is visually stunning. I played The Messenger and I loved it, and that was 2018. That was 5 years ago. I loved that game. So I knew that they could pull pixel art off really well, but this is obviously a very different style. It's not a 2D side-scroller. It's a top-down JRPG. But they did a great job. It is visually beautiful. The music is incredible. They have the composer from Chrono Trigger working on this game, in addition to the sound designer from The Messenger, and I adore the music. It's absolutely top of the line. The gameplay is very fun. I said it's similar to Mario RPG because you can time your button presses with the attacks to do more damage or to block enemy attacks. Not entirely necessary, but a fun little addition to make combat more engaging, even in like fast, random battles. There are no random battles, though, because you only encounter people on the field, and it feels, I'm 3 hours in, it definitely feels like they're doling out the number of enemies that you need to be a good level, but they don't over-inundate you. So if you want to grind, you probably could, but it's kind of implied that, like, if you just stick to the critical path, you'll be at the level you need to be at to enjoy a healthy challenge, you know? I'm really loving this game. I highly recommend it, and also it's on PlayStation Plus Extra and Game Pass day one, which is kind of odd, but good for them, you know? Get that bag. They
Being
sold
friends with everybody.
They're just friends across the board. They also sold 100,000 units on release day, which is a lot for an indie game that is also on 2 services for free. I'm excited to see where this game goes. It's on everything. It's on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch. So if you're interested, please give it a look. The studio deserves all the attention they're getting. I really like them. I watched the first half of a documentary on the making of this game, and then they started talking about this game, and I turned it off because I was like, I'm going to play it. I don't want to see it. But I really like the studio. I think they're really honest and cool people, and they built something really special here. I will be talking about it more probably because I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep playing, and I'm looking forward to this game. I wish it wasn't long because there's too many games coming out, but hey, they earned it. They got my time, and I'm already in. I am in.
Are you engaged in the story? Or do you want to wait to talk about that until you're
I guess I didn't bring that up. The story, thus far, the story hasn't really unraveled a ton. You're solstice warriors, which means like you were born special, so they take you to, once you're like, I think they were like 15-ish, they took us to a special academy, and we trained for 10 years, the 2 main characters. And we're out to, save the world from evil. We don't really know what that evil is yet at the 3-hour mark. It's more focused on developing the characters as people and their development with their friend Garl, who is not special. He's just a dude who likes to cook. And I don't know where it's going to go, but the writing is really good, which is really important in a game with no voice acting, obviously, because you're doing a lot of reading. But it's really well written so far. Characters are really charming. All of the character portraits kind of elevate everything they're saying because they have so many facial expressions. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I look forward to seeing what story is because I don't really know. Right now, basically, we're going to thwart evil, and that's it. And like, there's 2 older characters who've like been whispering in every scene, being like, "Should we tell them? Tell them what? Oh, I don't know." But we don't know what we don't know yet. So.
Oh. Anyway. I don't like when adults whisper.
You're an adult.
I guess I am an adult.
Hey, Kelly. Don't hear a secret?
Yes.
I'm whispering, and you don't like that.
Yeah, I'm also whispering, and I don't like that because I feel like we're doing ASMR for the audience.
Kelly, have you played any video games?
You might be shocked to hear that I am still playing Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm shocked to hear that you've been playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Well, here's what's happening, folks. I started the game, and I went with the same build, same race that I did for my first early access playthrough for nostalgia's sake. And I got all the way to Act 3, and I was like, I think I want to restart.
No, really?
It wasn't necessarily that I was like, I felt like I had just rushed through a lot of the game.
Yeah.
Because truth be told, I got to Act 3 in like 40 hours. And I felt like I really rushed through the first act because I had done a lot of it in early access.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there were certain story choices that I wanted to change and redo. So I re-rolled. I started a new game. I picked a bard instead. Took my time with Act 1 and Act 2. I realized just how much content I missed in my first go-around.
Oh, no.
And I was like, wow, I really was rushing. Even like my level, I was super under-leveled in my first playthrough when I got to Act 3. And now when I've gotten to Act 3, I feel like I'm at an appropriate level where I'm not just getting curb stomped every battle, desperately using fireball, hoping and praying that I can escape this encounter with my entire party intact. I have also been making new story decisions that I did not make the first go around, and just sort of absorbing the world a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm romancing a different character. Which isn't important.
That's very important. What?
It's important to me. It might not be important to some. I wanted to romance the vampire. There, I said it.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad.
So I am doing that.
I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I guess what I will say that I probably haven't talked about earlier when I was talking about the game. I do think Act 3 is where things get a little bit muddy because the game, at that point, you've been playing for like 40, 50 hours maybe. Maybe longer if you really take your time. So There are a lot of choices that you make, a lot of character interactions, a lot of story beats that you may or may not have hit. So sometimes Act 3 can be a little bit like, whoa, like there's a lot thrown at you at the same time. Acts 1 and 2 sort of have a structure path that you can follow narratively, whereas 3 opens up to you and just says, okay, go do what you need to do. And it's like, okay, but I need help. Like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, no, just do it.
Figure it out.
Okay, fair enough. I will say there's also like, I don't know if this is going to be the same on PlayStation. I assume not. I have noticed a lot of frame dropping in Act 3. I don't want to get super spoilery, but you're in a location where there's a lot going on. So it is not super shocking that there's frame drops. I wish there wasn't.
So is you're restarting the game partially hoping that when you get back there, it's fixed?
Kind of. There's been 2 big patches as of recording today. And I know they're working on a big performance one for the next one. So we'll see. I think I'm probably going to get to this place before they release patch number 3. But these kinds of things don't bother me as much. Frames don't bother me as much as like graphical integrity.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of different experiences. And I don't think it's based on your rig. Like, I've heard people who have very, very nice high-end PCs that are still suffering these frame drops. I've heard people with playing on MacBook Airs with a cooler underneath, praying and desperately hoping that their MacBook doesn't melt. So I don't know. I saw it on TikTok. Someone was literally playing on a MacBook Air. And they had an ice pack underneath it.
How is that allowed?
I don't know.
I'm calling the police.
And people, it was funny. People in the comments were like, you can just stream this to your laptop. Like, you don't have to play it through the laptop. Like, you can use NVIDIA.
Yeah.
To cloud stream it. And they were like, what? I think a lot of people have seen this game on TikTok and have just started playing it without the entire context behind the game, behind it being in early access for so long, behind its sort of D&D background, behind its difficulty. It is, in my opinion, it is a difficult game. There are obviously different difficulty settings. I'm playing on the medium setting right now. I guess it would be medium or standard. I don't know. But it is difficult, and you really do have to think. And I think some people are used to button mashing. Like, I was playing Final Fantasy 16 before this, and I felt in Final Fantasy 16, I was pretty much just button mashing, which, to be completely fair and honest, that's how most Final Fantasies go for me. It's just
even the turn-based ones, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like when you go from that to like something like this, it's like, oh, I have to like, gotta turn my brain on a little bit. Gotta be using my thinking cap a little bit. So I'm eager to see how it's going to look on PS5, how reviews are going to look for that, and then obviously eventually Xbox.
I mean, people know how it is on PS5. It's out on early access. I just haven't played it myself.
That's true, but it just came out on early access like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. So I'm sort of excited to see. I'm excited to finish the game. I'm excited to see like the end game stuff. There's a whole lot that I haven't seen yet in Act 3. I mean, I barely scratched the surface. So, but unfortunately, I have a very busy week ahead of me and a very busy weekend, and also a fart field coming out that I have to be playing because I am ever loyal to Mr. Howard, who has done nothing but lie to me.
Don't say that.
Who has been cruel to me, who has
Mr. Howard
hurt me. He hasn't hurt me physically.
I was going to say he has emotionally.
So we'll see, we'll see when I actually finish Baldur's Gate. I'm going to have to do a little bit of juggling. I'm going to have to be doing Starfield, Baldur's Gate, Starfield, Baldur's Gate. So
we got a freaking clown over here. She's going to be juggling.
I'm going to be juggling. It's funny that you said clown. There is a clown in Baldur's Gate 3, and I just did that quest yesterday.
Was it juggling just like you're about to be?
I'm not going to tell you what he was doing because it's not appropriate.
What the heck?
I'm just kidding.
What kind of video game are you playing, Kelly?
I'm just kidding. It is spoilery though, so I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
Because I know you're going to be playing this game eventually, and I don't want to ruin anything for you.
Yeah, I don't know when.
Or our listeners.
No promises, everybody. I know it would probably be best for the audience who desperately, violently wants to know my impressions, but it won't be this week because Starfield and Sea of Stars. Sea of Starfields.
Sea of Star Farts.
Isn't it Fartfield?
Sometimes you got to switch it up a little bit.
Keep
everybody on their toes.
The only thing I want to switch up is going home.
Oh. Well, you are home. We're recording
crap.
from our homes right now.
What do I do after this episode then?
I don't know. Go for a walk.
It's like 95 degrees outside.
Thank you everybody so much for listening this week. I hope you have a really awesome fart-filled week. I hope that you had a great long weekend if you were able to have a long weekend. And we are excited to talk to you next week about Elder Scrolls 6, which is coming out tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Elder Scrolls 6. That's what we're talking about next week. Oh, we were talking at the beginning of the show, but we're going to be talking about Bethesda next week a lot. It's because Elder Scrolls 6 is out next week.
Andrew?
Yeah.
That is literally the joke I was telling earlier this episode, and you just sat there and stared at me silently.
I'm sorry. What did I do wrong?
You know what? We'll talk about it off air.
Oh, no. That's the most threatening thing I've ever heard.
No, I'm just kidding. But I made that joke earlier, and I said, when we were talking about Elder Scrolls 6, I said, I'm excited to be talking about a more Elder Scrolls 6 next week because we have Bethesda news next week, and it's all about Elder Scrolls 6. And you were just staring at me like I had another head, like I grew out another head on my neck.
You have two heads on your neck? I don't understand what you're saying.
Thank you guys so much for listening. I don't think I can do this anymore.
No.
I'm just kidding.
105, last episode.
I'm just kidding. We'll see you guys next, or you'll hear us next week. Okay, bye.